Good morning, everybody. This is Deborah Byrne from Deborah Byrne Psychology Services, known as DBpsychology across the web. I promised I would re-record this video for men's mental health, and it's about why guys don't basically don't talk about it, don't go to their GP, and when they do, they underreport. And it's about the language that the guys use. It's not the same as the way women talk about mental health. First off, 1 in 4 people to be diagnosed, okay, in any for any mental health reason. 1 in 4 people difficulties. We do know that when we persuade our man to go, or our son, or whoever it is, to go to and talk about their mental health, they're likely to underreport the symptoms. They're likely to underreport, what's going on. So there is recommendations there among professionals that we would use a lower number of criteria to diagnose, particularly around postnatal depression and things like that. Now, it really isn't your fault, guys. We know from studies that it's the reason guys don't tend to talk as much as women do. The reason that guys tend to not talk about the mental health in particular is because about a hormone called oxytocin. Now, this is also known as the love drug, or you've heard it. If you've had a baby, you'll probably have heard about oxytocin when you've had your baby, and it is to do with childbirth and and all that bonding and things like that, and delivery and stuff like that. So guys tend not to have as much of this in their system, and as a result, where women will use the befriend and to tend to people, men will tend to be more inclined to fight or flight. So in other words, they will tend more to get angry, and they will tend more to withdraw. So there'll be two things there. If they're in trouble, if they're finding things too difficult, they will either get very angry, or they will withdraw into doing very solitary things, or even just withdraw altogether from society. Now, the language that guys use tends to be very technical. There wouldn't be language, the language in terms of emotions and things like that. For most guys, you'd think they were talking about a piece of technology, or an engine, something to do with engineering. So they will use words like strain, breaking point, intolerance, stuff that is, you would almost think, as I said, it's a piece of technology, it's a piece of engineering, a building, it's something like that. That's what they're talking about. When in fact they're actually talking about their emotions and not being able to cope with a mental health issue. Whether it's just stress, whether they're just overstressed, or very mild depression or something like that, or a mild anxiety. This is how they're going to talk. They're going to talk about their symptoms more than their emotions. So they're going to talk about, their lack of sleep, feeling tired, feeling forgetful, lack of concentration, not being able to finish their project, whatever, if they're involved in a project and work, not being able to finish it, things like that. They're not going to be talking about, in the same way as a woman would. And so, think about it. What way are they talking to you? As their friend, whether you're a man or a woman, as a friend, you're listening to somebody talking to you. How are they speaking? So you're doing a little bit of detective work here. And how are they talking to me? What kind of language are they using? And think about it. Think about what's being said, how it's being said. And it might give you a bigger clue as to how, what's going on in terms of their mental health. And do they need to see a GP? Now, in saying that, suicide is huge, and it really is a big concern for everybody, and it should be a big concern for everybody. Suicide is the biggest killer of men. It's something like 3.5 times more likely to commit suicide than women, particularly in the under 45s. So if at any time, you suspect that anybody, man or woman or child, teen or whatever, is going to commit suicide, or, you know, there might be some sort of talk about suicide, or you get a feeling, you get a gut feeling this isn't going well, don't wait. Never, ever, ever wait. Straight to the GP or 999 or 112. Get, you know, or wherever you are, whatever the emergency services number is, and wherever you are in the world, call them immediately. Stay with the person, keep talking to them, and get help, and try and get yourself some help as well. So that you have support just to focus on the individual, and that the other person, the other friend or family member, can call the emergency services and talk to them while you engage your friend or your family member. Now, moving on from that, what can you do to encourage them to look after the mental health a bit better? Diet and exercise, of course, are the big ones. We always hit the diet and exercise. Tackling their sleep, and I have a blog on sleep and how it impacts mental and physical health, so please check that out. You know, I would talk about getting them to relax. So if they won't take up meditation, and they won't do the bath, try and get them. You can tackle the exercise part with stress reduction, and with you know, getting them to relax and decompress after they come home from work, is to just ask them to go for a walk with you. Do it, you know, you can do it in terms of, I want to go for a walk, will you come with me? So they're helping you. So, you know, drag them out of the house and get them walking. It is a very simple thing to do, is to drag somebody out of the house and get them walking with you. But yeah, look at tips in terms of, I have a stress reduction blog up there. Have a look at all the tips there. I have a time management. Time management is very important. To have a look at that and see how you're actually managing your time. You know, how you're managing your time every day. And it's very hard, particularly if, you know, you're raising kids. It can be so hard. You're working full time, and this goes for men and women. If you're working full time, it's very hard to balance it all out. So do try and keep at least one day, but really it should be 2 days in the week, or, you know, at weekends, where you have family time, but you also have time just for yourself, to decompress. Now, encourage them to change over any bad habits that they have. So sometimes it's hard to let go of our bad habits, and sometimes it's better to tackle it by introducing good habits first. And by that I mean the good habits, and I have 6 blogs up there on ideas for good habits, you know, that you can use in order to soothe yourself, in order to relax yourself, in order to help yourself. Then what that does is it'll kind of push out the bad habits, because we no longer need the bad habit like smoking or other things that we do. We kind of transition those out, and at the same time transition in the more healthier habits of self-soothing ourselves. They're called good habits, okay? I don't think people get the idea that they also soothe us, like a child would be soothed or comforted by their parent. We still need that as adults, so if you can help them build up those good habits. Also encourage them to get those checkups regularly. I know it's hard. I really do know it's harder to get the guys to go, go to the GP, get things checked that they need to be checked, and also to the dentist. There'll be 2 things that if you have mental health issues, if you have even a mild depression or something like that, there are 2 things that people tend to avoid doing. They will, going to the GP and the dentist. So, you know, maybe that's a red flag for somebody there, that, you know, these need to be looked at again. Now, a few things that guys need. Yes, they need to be alone. They do need that time when they come in the evenings, or maybe they need to hit the gym. They need that time just to be alone and decompress. Not very long, about, half an hour possibly, but it'll be up to the individual. They also need the night out with the boys, or the night in with the boys. So the match is on, everybody over to my house, or the following week it could be to somebody, to the other person. They need that connection with the other guy, other men, and their friends. They need that connection with their male friends. So if you could encourage them to do that, particularly if you're worried about their mental health, I would encourage them to do that. You also need date nights. If you're a couple, you also need date nights. Now, a date night doesn't have to cost a lot. You can ask a friend or a family member to babysit the kids. Grandparents are great for that, and you can simply just go out for a walk. It doesn't have to cost any money. It really does. It can be free. There's a huge amount of ideas up there on date nights for free. You can do it, but it's a good time for you to connect, and you need that. And I've spoken about that on how to improve your communication style as a couple. I've spoken about that in other blogs. Do check that out, because the most important thing about all of this, whether you are in a relationship with a guy and you're worried about his mental health, whether he's your child, and it doesn't matter, as a grandparent, as a mum of 5 grown-up kids, I can tell you, your worry level still doesn't really go down that much, so you still worry about them. It doesn't matter if they're a family member, it doesn't matter if they're a friend. Keep the lines of communication open. You will probably have to organise the date night. You will probably have to organise the night out with the boys. Now, you could probably just make a phone call to one of his friends and say, okay, I think he needs a night out with you guys, or would you like to come on over? There's a match on, or invite him along to it, or whatever, a night out in your place. You might have to go that way. You might also have to be the one to pick up the phone. You will have to be the one that does a bit more and makes a bit more effort in terms of keeping lines of communication open. And that is so important. No matter how much it deteriorates, no matter how much you only get the grunt, you get the mumbling and whatever else it is, depending on their age. You need to keep those lines of communication open. They're so important. So I'm going to leave it at that this morning, and thank you all for listening. And I will be back next week, and I will talk to you all then. So do check out the blog. It's at www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservices.com/blog, and it's men's mental health. It's a bit of a mouthful to say, even for me. So I'll talk to you all next week. Thank you all for listening.